All right, guys. So now we've covered the strategies or tactics you need to get your first dozen or 2 dozen customers in this video. Now we're talking about how you're going to approach scaling that up, right? So what tactics or strategies can you use to go from maybe 10 or 15 customers or 20 customers to your 100 customers? We're going to be talking about how to leverage infrastructure now. So these include a little bit of automation, a little bit of, collateral that you would need for your business, but keeping in mind that the majority of the efforts here are still going to be founder-led. The founder still needs to be the one having those conversations, being the one learning about their customers and identifying where there are gaps in messaging, gaps in feature requirements, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so now we're going to turn that trickle of revenue into a steady stream and amplify the efforts that you've been putting in the, from the first video. First of all, it's doubling down on your ICP. Ideally, you would have identified a customer segment that's working for you based off of the experimentations that you've done so far. So you would have identified who your beachhead customers are, right? So these are the customers that are feeling your pain point most acutely, and they're the ones that are going to be wanting to use the product as much as possible. And again, the key thing to remember here is that you don't need or want to have a completely polished product. If the problem you're solving is painful enough, your users are going to jump through hoops to use that product. Don't overinvest in development at this stage. Focus on getting those customers and getting that conversion. You go with your ICP, and then you can use tools like Apollo, Hunter.io, LinkedIn. There's a bunch of them to find others like them and add them to your cold emailing process. So again, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to personalize these emails, but that's where tools like AI can come in and help you do much more hyper-personalized outreach with obviously some guidance. The idea is to focus your efforts, your outbound efforts, on the customer segment where you have the highest odds of success. So yeah, look at who your happiest users are. If it's, for example, if they're in the healthcare sector, so you want to target other people in that sector who have the same or similar profile as your current users. So scale up that outbound outreach with a system. Let's get more organized. You might want to consider using a CRM. Google Sheets works to an extent, but now you might try HubSpot or Zoho or any of these alternatives. The idea is to manage a much larger pipeline of leads without letting things slip through. So these things help you automate responses, automate outbound, do a lot of the kind of manual work so you can focus on conversations. You might also experiment with cold calling or LinkedIn messages. It's really critical that the recipients understand that they're talking to the founder and that this is not going to be a generic sales pitch. It's going to be much more focused on them, their pain points, advice from them as domain experts than what they're typically used to receiving. If they even sniff a hint of this being like a salesy outbound effort or a sales call, they are going to drop off and they're going to get their guards up. So we really want to avoid that as much as possible. You have to be systematic and persistent with your follow-ups. So, every 3 to 4 days, you should send a follow-up, 3 to 4 follow-ups. And then a really effective tactic is the breakup email at the end, where you send a one-liner or two-liner email saying something along the lines of, hey, looks like you're not interested. I'm not gonna reach out again. Best of luck. Surprisingly, that kind of messaging has a very high response rate, and you want to leverage that towards the end of your email outbound campaign. The other thing that you can do is go to your existing happy users and leverage them for referrals and testimonials. So videos work great. Do video interviews with those happy customers to collect a lot of social proof and put that on your website so that whenever anybody goes and looks at your product, they are immediately getting that social validation. And then, really just try to get those referrals from those customers, right? So as we spoke about before, early adopters tend to be influencers in their space. And if they're delighted by the service or the product that you've built, they are going to advocate for it in their community. So really try to make that a much more proactive part of your sales process by doing some follow-ups, having regular interactions with your existing customers. And now at this point of around 20, 25 customers, it's a really good time to kick off some content marketing and thought leadership type of content. This kind of stuff is a little bit slow to pay off, but once you start doing this, it really pushes out that social proof that you have to a wider audience, right? So especially if your early customers are engaging with this and it's showing up on the feed of their network. So share insights from the trenches of like building the product, share those testimonials and reviews that you've collected, share those interviews that you've done with founders, do this kind of thought leadership, content stuff, and it will eventually start to generate a lot of organic leads for you. Another strategy is to do a lot of guest posts and publications in your domain. So go to where your customers are hanging out and write content that provides value to them. So whether that's on Reddit in like specific subreddits or on different websites, or blogs, that's where you'll have to put in the effort to get some additional leads or prospects coming in to speak with you. You can also explore some lightweight partnerships to reach more people, right? So a lightweight partnership could mean a couple of things. So one is an integration partnership. So, does your product integrate with other tools? If it does, get it listed on the marketplace for those tools. For example, if you've built something that works for businesses and most of your customers are using Slack, find a way to have that list on Slack's marketplace and promote it that way. Another strategy is co-marketing. So find a non-competing company that serves a similar audience and do a small collaboration. So joint webinar, guest blog exchange, anything that opens up your product to the customers of that company and vice versa. And then finally, there's like channel or affiliate partnerships, right? So maybe, one of your customers really loves your product and happens to be a consultant, for example, or a well-connected person. So you could formalize a referral partnership with them and have them promote or advocate for that product with their audience. All right, so you can use these strategies to try to get a little bit more automated in your outbound efforts and your reach so that you can start scaling that revenue up. The important thing is to continue to stay customer centric, right? So continue the pattern from like the first phase where you are doing things that don't scale, you're bending over backwards for customer success. Maybe you want to formalize a way to collect feedback, whether that's through Google Forms and come up with like an NPS survey, or just ask open-ended questions on what you can do better. This really is critical because it accomplishes two things, right? So one is the obvious, you're gonna know what to build on your product next to make sure that your customers are sticking around and you're maximizing the value that you provide. But the other thing is that it makes those customers feel really valued and people want to stay and work with people they like, right? So yeah, that's gonna make them stick around and tell their friends. So customer success efforts, even when you don't have a formal CS team, are critical to setting up the foundation for your business so that it can scale and for making sure that your early adopters stick around. Yeah, that's it. Best of luck and let me know how it goes.